Hey, this is Dr. Paul. Let me just follow up on that real estate negotiating you just watched. And you go, okay, well, what's the big deal? You just, buying a house with no discount. What's the big deal? Well, let me share with you what the big deal is with what just happened. So we just picked up a $250,000 asset, number one. Okay, now what would you need to do to pick up a $250,000 asset if it was not real estate? Well, you'd have to have $250,000. So he just picked up a $250,000 asset for $3,000. That's big, okay? So the leverage component of real estate is number one, that's huge, okay? Number two, equity. So he keeps the property. So let's say instead of him living in it, he rents it out, right? Now he's got equity going into that property every month. His renters are dropping money into his bank account every month, automated. Passive income, automated. And by the way, what did it cost him? $3,000. So with $3,000, he controls 250,000 assets, and he's having money put into his bank account through equity. Appreciation. So that $250,000 is going to increase about 1.5% to 3% every year. That's passive. So 1.5, that's about 3,000 to say 3%, 3, 6, 9, 8. So it's going to go anywhere from $3,000 to $8,000 a year. So what did he pay for that? Well, $3,000 passive income. So you know what the return on investment is when you make 6,000, you spend 3,000 and you make 6. That's 100% return on investment. So this thing's looking pretty good. And then you go depreciation. Well, he can depreciate that property depending on his tax circumstances, but he basically can take that $250,000 divided up over roughly 7.5 years. And that amount of money, he does not have to pay he does not have to pay taxes on his earned income. It offsets his earned income. Now, this concept is a little more confusing for people. So let's say it was $20,000 a year offset, okay? And it's gonna be more than that at 7.5 years, $250,000. So it would be easily, so 7 would be 3 times 7 is 21. So we're easily 4 times 7 is 28. So let's say about 30,000. So $30,000 of depreciation. And let's say he's in a 50% tax bracket. So that's $30,000 of earned income. And you're in a 50% tax bracket, that's $15,000. So you see how this is adding up? So he just made another $15,000 in depreciation. And then you go to cash flow. It's at least going to cash flow. We're going to position it where cash flow is $250 a month. So that's another $3,000 a year. And then he's going to get a deposit. And a lot of times these people, they just walk away from their deposit, et cetera. So you've got leverage of 250,000. You've got equity. You've got appreciation. You've got depreciation. We're over $20,000, $30,000 a year right now easily. Then you've got cash flow. You've got all of these systems. And then if he wants to sell it, now that's not recommended, but in 5 years from now, he sells that. It appreciates, say, 5,000, 6,000 a year. 5 times 5 is 25. So he's up to around $50,000 easily from his $3,000 investment. This is the power of real estate. Make $50,000 off 3,000. Well, how many times do you do that before it starts becoming significant? In other words, it starts becoming a nice little chunk of change. Well, do 2 of them, that's $100,000. Yeah, see, it starts happening pretty fast. Now, the goal is not to sell it. The goal is to keep it and let all of it just keep working. You've already got the leverage. Go ahead and the equity keeps going up from the deposits. The appreciation keeps going up. The depreciation, you keep taking that. And the cash flow, it actually goes up because rents go up. They don't go down. And so the rents are going to go up. And he doesn't need the money. He's a chiropractor. That's why real estate creates wealth. And all of that was owner financing. That was negotiated owner financing, no bank loans. We didn't have to go through a realtor. or we didn't have to go through, we didn't have to get we didn't have to go through all the closing costs. Because remember, closing costs are typically 3% of the whole deal. So if he did not know what he just known him, he would have been dealing with 3% with the listing agent, 3% with the selling agent. That's $6,000 that the buyer actually is buying. It's actually built into the purchase price. So he doesn't have to deal with that. He doesn't have to deal with the closing, the 3%. So he's already up 9% right there. That's it. And this is how we routinely buy properties with our real estate. This is exactly what I did as a chiropractor. I just routinely picked up properties with owner financing exactly like that. You only need to do 2 a year. You do 2 of those a year. That's $500,000 in real estate with all the other factors. Well, in 5 years, no more than 10 years, you've got a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio, and it only cost them $3,000 per piece. And by the way, just so you know, that is the typical cost when I bought subject to properties. That was a classic example. There was no equity in the property. There was nothing to give them. They just needed some money to travel and put a deposit of where they were going. That was it. It was usually about $1,000 to $3,000. That was it. And then we just turned it over, subject to owner financing, put it in a trust, and then turn it out and rent it. And then we turn it over to the property manager. We never get in the business of managing property. Never. So that's exactly how it's done. That's exactly what I did to be able to retire. Remember, when your passive income exceeds your fixed expenses, that's called retirement. That's when you retire. And the 2 easiest ways to do that as a chiropractor. Number 1, know to hire, train, and manage associate doctors. Average associate doctor were $150,000 a year. You'd have to make $8 million on your own to do that at 50% overhead, 50% taxes, and then get a 2.5% interest rate on your $2 million. Well, that would take years and years and years to get that done. Well, it only takes me $5,000 to $7,000 with an associate doctor, and then I'm going to make $150,000 a year. So the cost was 5 to 7. I make 150. Kind of return on investment. Because remember, they just have to break even. As soon as they see 13, 20 patient visits a week at a $30, $50 per visit, there's no more money going out. It's not going to cost me $80,000. It's going to cost me $5,000 to $7,000 to create a $150,000 passive income stream. And then we do that the same with the real estate. And that's the easiest way for chiropractors to create wealth right there. Now, I do have my real estate program for sale. If you're interested, I'll include the link here. But I do have my real estate program to sell. And this is what I teach to all my clients, associate doctor, etc. And it's all the components that you need about real estate. It's all the marketing, how to find real estate, how to find quality real estate, the marketing, the paperwork, how to negotiate the real estate, how to close the real estate. It's everything about getting high quality deals, finding them, negotiating them, closing on them. Even if you don't do owner financing, you'll save 12% when you just go out and buy real estate through a mortgage. Now, that's not what we recommend, because you can buy a lot more properties with owner financing. You're limited to 4 properties if you go through federal mortgage program. That's why we don't go through the federal mortgage program. We go through owner financing. I'm not limited to 4. I 5, 10, 20, 50. I'm not limited at all. That's why. So if you're interested in the real estate program, just click on the link. You'll find it here. I'll include it. And you can have access to the program. But you just saw an example of exactly how we'll find properties, negotiate properties, get them under control, turn around and rent them out. And that whole deal, I mean, you could do the math. What was that? That was about $30,000 a year between equity appreciation, depreciation, cash flow, about what that was. And now we have a $250,000 asset, and it's on a 30-year note, but it won't stay on a 30-year note. What we'll do is we'll drop it down and it'll drop down to less than a 15-year. It'll be paid off in 15 years because what'll happen is, remember, as a chiropractor, we don't need any money from that property. So all we do, the renters pay, the mortgage, the interest, taxes and all that. Then we just take the additional cash flow of $250 and we just put it right back into the principal. And we just keep doing that every month. And that gets bigger and bigger. The principal gets lower and lower. And next thing you know, it's paid off in 15 years and not 30. And now it's worth more than $250,000. You're probably up around $350,000. And it cost you 15 years ago, $3,000. This is why people get wealthy on real estate. This is why 70% of the millionaires become millionaires on real estate, not chiropractic, not practicing law or medicine. So if you're interested in the real estate program, just check the link. It should be around where you're at right there. And it's well worth it. You can see this is how it all comes together and it's work. This is what I teach my chiropractors, not only how to have a highly profitable practice, how to hire, train, and manage associate doctors that creates freedom and passive income, how to buy real estate, because that's what creates wealth. It's all about making money to create wealth, not to have to go in 5 days a week until you're 80 years old. Check out the real estate program, take a look at it. And it does come with me consulting with you one-on-one for at least 90 days. So check it out.